Hey everybody, welcome into a new chapter of Old Man Brad. If this is your first time in, or you've come back for another episode, thank you so much for giving me a listen. And if you love the show, drop me a review on your favorite podcatcher, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, whatever it may be. I'd love to know what you think of the show. So this week, I'm bringing in another very special guest. Last time you heard him on the show, we did a Tales from Tubi trying to figure out the movie Neon Maniacs. I don't think we ever came to an agreement, a solid thought on the film, really. It was all over the place. But this week, we're going to talk about the Shudder exclusive Destroy All Neighbors. I want to welcome in Jason from Binge Movies. How you doing tonight?
Doing okay. It is bitterly cold as we record this. I think it's bitterly cold where you are, too.
It is very, very, very cold.
All the Hartzler's eggnog is gone, and you've given me yet another completely bizarre movie to watch.
I can't just, give you just a straightforward film. I mean, I set the tone with Neon Maniacs. I can't just jump the shark right after that.
I don't know that you watch straightforward films, but it does feel like even by Brad standards, old man Brad standards, that you save the strangest shit for me, which is fine. I enjoy it, but it makes me feel incompetent as a podcaster because you have these movies that are indescribable, and you're like, okay, come on and describe it.
You and I have been doing this for a long time, so it's like I'll call them up.
Doesn't mean I'm any good at it though. It just means I keep paying the bill for the hosting fees every month.
This film just came out last Friday, as a time you'll get this, and it's exclusive to Shudder. So we're just gonna dive right into it. Let's talk Destroy All Neighbors.
Hey, how's that band going?
It's mainly me these days. I just want to finish my album.
You have been trying to finish this album for 3 years.
1, 2, 3! What is this? It's a progressive form of prog. I've been calling it prog squared. The only way I listen to your music is if you tied me up at gunpoint and you forced me to. And don't play it here again or you're fired.
What's going on?
I think we have a new neighbor.
Destroy All Neighbors is directed by Josh Forbes, starring Jonah Ray, Alex Winter, Kira Dahl, and many others, written by Mike Benner, Jared Logan, Charles A. Piper. A struggling prog-rock musician, William Brown, finds himself in a living nightmare when he accidentally kills Vlad, the neighbor from hell. Before we jump into the full spoilers on this, what did you think of this, I guess you could say, oddball movie?
Oh, my head with this movie. How do you talk about it without spoiling it? Is it even possible?
Let me ask you this, okay, and then we'll jump right into spoilers. Did you enjoy your time with it? Still to be determined.
I don't know. To me, this was a mixed bag. It was a mixed bag in the sense that for a horror film of this budget, it looked pretty decent in a lot of ways. A lot of independent horror movies, especially a lot of like Shudder exclusives, unless they're international films, but a lot of Shudder exclusives kind of look like shit.
I'll agree.
Like digital horror movies, low budget digital horror movies with like chintzy sets and stuff. Just they don't look very good. They don't look in like you and I have talked about this before. There's a lot of bad looking 80s horror movies, but there were 80s horror movies that were low budget and somehow they managed, I think it's because they were in standard definition and had a lot of fog and they were film grain, kind of obscured a lot. You know what I mean? You didn't see that the paint on the walls was still wet. Like the interior apartments are fine in this movie. The hallway in this movie, it's so obviously this chintzy set made to look dingy and dirty and disgusting. That was distracting. And so that's like kind of the summation. The like Alex Winter performance as this Vlad character, I think is very completely bizarre. Like, it is unlike anything else he's ever done, and that includes Freaks, which I've seen and which he directed and I reviewed. And yet, like, the makeup isn't bad, but it's lit in a way that exposes it as being a guy in a bunch of rubber makeup.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
And so it's like, oh man. So it's like, that's how I feel about the movie, where it's like for every one thing that worked for me about it, there was another thing that didn't work for me about it. I liked the middle of the movie significantly more than the first part of the movie. You know, if you divide the movie into thirds, I thought the second third of the movie was the strongest, and then I thought it kind of took too long to get to where it was entertaining for me, and then it kind of fizzled out a little bit. And I have questions, but it has to wait until spoilers.
Okay. Well, for me, I
loved it.
I wouldn't say I loved it, but I really enjoyed my time with it. Like, I thought it was just quirky enough and weird enough along this ride with Vlad and everything else going along that I was having a good time. It made me kind of think of the Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny film.
It has a lot of
oddness.
that, especially towards the end.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, very much so.
But overall for me, I enjoyed my time. I had fun with it. I wouldn't say, oh my gosh, this is the best movie of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still January, but I had fun.
The struggle for these sort of movies, right, is when they're odd and they're intentionally trying to be odd. Yeah. It's like trying to make a cult movie on purpose. It's not going to happen to some extent. It's like you're too in on it. And so I think sometimes with this movie, it's enjoyable, but it's almost like trying too hard to be weird sometimes.
Well, I saw a few people online say that it felt like a Frank Henenlotter movie, like Frankenhooker and Brain Damage and that type of weird 80s film, which I can see a lot of it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, you have the main actor is, Mystery Science Theater, so he's already likes this weird stuff.
The difference, though, between Frank Henenlotter, who I don't care for Frank Henenlotter's movies, but the difference is like when you're watching a Frank Henenlotter movie, the sense that you get is that Frank Henenlotter is a very strange, perverted old man, right? I don't want to say it's coming. I don't want to say it's coming out of a sense of earnestness, but it's like it's fucked up earnestly, kind of a thing, right?
Okay, yeah.
Whereas this movie is being made and it's fucked up, but it's fucked up because it's self-aware of Frank Henenlotter. Does that make any sense?
Yes,
it's like
it absolutely does to me. Frank
Henenlotter it's not a reference to anything else. When you watch Frankenhooker, you don't get the sense of like he's trying to do this thing. No, he just made this exploitation movie and he came up with the title Frankenhooker and thought it was funny and wrote a half-assed script and shot it guerrilla style with a penthouse pet over the course of 3 days or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm sure this shot more than 3 days.
Sure, yeah. But this, they're almost like they're trying to recreate that sort of feeling of that weirdo straight to video.
Yes.
Shock movie.
But still, like you said, like the look it's more crisp and clean and not fuzzy and dirty and straight to video-esque.
Yeah, it's not as guerrilla, not as grimy.
We'll just go straight into the spoilers from here. So if you haven't seen it, we're just going to talk about this movie. So I think it's going to end up being I enjoyed it a little more than you did.
Can I give you my honest opinion, which is probably the weirdest opinion that I have, my hottest take? Is I think I enjoyed this movie a lot more when it was being very when it was like more bizarrely heartfelt and fun. And what I mean, the first quarter of the movie, right? There's this guy, it's the dude from the new Mystery Science Theater 3000. Yeah. And he's got him and his girlfriend live in this shithole apartment in Los Angeles, and he works for a kind of down and out recording studio. He makes barely any money. He's been working on this prog-rock album, this progressive rock album for years and years and 3 years, and he hasn't been able to finish it. And he's inattentive to his girlfriend, although they seem remarkably happy until they're not for plot reasons. He's a real wimpy guy, ineffectual guy, can't make any decisions, can't handle confrontation. Yeah, just a real loser. Thomas Lennon is his coked out boss, and he's kind of takes advantage of him and blah, blah, blah. But he's obsessed with like old-timey prog rock. He wants to make the world's most perfect prog rock album.
And anybody who's listened to prog rock know that they, make albums that are very intentionally all over the place.
They're a lot of concept albums.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There's lore to the albums, and they're telling you a story and all this sort of stuff. So he's trying to get it to be perfect. And so he has a neighbor who sells a script to Hollywood and moves out. And this weird Eastern European neighbor moves in, who's very grotesque looking, played by Alex Winter in 75 pounds of prosthetics. He looks like a very deranged, nondescript, like if Mario was from a Balkan state close to a radioactive fallout.
It was like they took Lemmy from Motorhead and mixed him with Mario. And tried to like
kind
give him
of.
this
And
rough...
if he grew up at Chernobyl,
yeah.
And he's like just absolutely disgusting and just gross, whatever. And apparently, all he does is lift weights, listen to EDM, and like eat like chicken and talk about fucking.
Yes.
And so there's just like EDM music just pounding constantly, and so he can't finish his prog rock album, and so. And there's all this other miscellaneous stuff that's going on. Basically, everybody walks all over him in this building, and all of his neighbors, and they're not bad people necessarily, but like the first act of it is almost like Neighbors or like one of those other movies where it's like this put upon guy, like Vlad wins people over, like even he calls the police for disturbing the peace, and Vlad, by the time he gets there, Vlad's become best friends with his girlfriend and charms the cops, and so everything's constantly turning around to where it makes it look like our protagonist is just being a jerk.
And instead of going over to confront and talk to him, he does the bang on the wall.
Yes.
So then it like sets it all off of like, why didn't you just come over here?
Right. And so then he's really fucking with the guy, and he's really seemingly nice and charming. Like the accent is very bizarre because it's like Eastern European, but sort of Irish.
Yes.
Oh, Willie.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's so.
And if you didn't know it was Alex Winter going in, like it is hard to tell that it's him.
It's hard to tell.
Like you can tell from the eyes. If you know Alex Winter, you can tell from those eyes. But
yeah, if you know his butthole eyes, then you know that's him when you look at his butthole eyes. But so he ends up having this confrontation with him, which leads to him being gouged, run through by like a pipe from this makeshift bench press rack combo setup he has.
And then decapitated.
And then like blood is like shooting out of the pipe. And he's like, oh no, it's fine. Just put it back in. He's trying to put the blood back in the tube. That was kind of funny. And then he ends up decapitating himself.
Yeah.
And our loser protagonist is just like standing there covered in blood and guts and viscera. It's like, oh my God. Seemingly has a psychotic break.
Yes. Because then he starts basically hallucinating, I guess. What is going on?
A
I'm like,
prog-rock YouTube tutorial tells him how to dispose of the body.
What to do with the body. So he goes and gets the little saw and starts cutting them into little pieces.
Starts cutting them into little pieces. He's gonna melt them in acid. Some of that stuff was funny of like going back and forth, whatever. Now here's my like kind of problem with the movie in general, which is I need the movie to tell me what is actually happening. And here's what I mean. When he's taking the bodies, because eventually he ends up with two bodies.
Yeah.
He's taking the bodies to the smelting plant.
Smelting that
there's a cameo.
Camille Nanjiani is.
Nanjiani is a security guard. And that was like a kind of a funny exchange. But when he's like, he's yelling at Vlad. He's like, shut up, Vlad. And he's like, did you hear that? And Camille's like, did I hear you yelling at yourself? Yeah, I heard that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We needed like a more occasionally an establishing shot looking from the outside in from a sane perspective. Because by the time we get to the police standoff, nobody is behaving in a way. I think I
know what you mean.
Let me just like get to the point. By the end of the movie, we don't know the boundaries of his delusion.
No. I mean, he's picked up some extra people along the way.
He's run
a guy over with a van.
Ghosts and
his landlord got fried, and she's now this fried skeleton
record producer, right? And he's made a band out of all the people he's serially manslaughtered. Because he's like, you're a serial killer. He's like, no, I'm a serial manslaughterer. And that's kind of a funny joke.
And it's finally made it to where I can create the album that I need to.
With all of these corpses.
Yes.
Right? And once he kills these people, and they're mostly accidents, but once he kills these people, then the bodies or whatever of these people become his friends and join his band. And that sounds sick and twisted, and it kind of is, but it's played. The best part of this is when they're all like Angus and Vlad and Willie, like they make peace with each other, and they're like drinking and they're talking about music and life and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, I kind of just want the movie to be this, and I kind of just want the movie to him actually be talking to these corpses, you know,
like to come in. You want them to come in and just see like it's some happy birthday to me where it's dead bodies around a table and he's just talking to them and someone's like, it kind of cheaps out at the end. Right. And so when the cops are acting bizarre, are they acting bizarre because they're a part of his delusion? I don't think so. The cops are really there. So why are they acting that way? Why does his girlfriend return at the end after he's committed all these atrocities and then kind of do him a favor and then seemingly still be in some kind of relationship with him at the end, even though she thinks he's insane and he's seeing the ghost of these spirits, but he seems to know it's delusional. Like because we never know the whole movie is enveloped in his delusion. We never get a sense of what's real and what's not real. They never set that. They never draw that line because there are lots of, okay, he's hallucinating this, but then you see other characters kind of react to the moment.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's more of a supernatural. These are actually zombies / ghosts, but I don't know if that's
so. Here's the point. Yeah, but here's my point, Brad. Here's why I couldn't find it as funny as I wanted to.
Okay.
Because I don't know what the limits of it are. I don't have a picture in my mind of what's really happening. And so what I mean by that is like, if he's in the car and in his mind, Vlad's severed leg is pushing the gas pedal, but it's really himself pushing the gas pedal, that's one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it actually is the ghost leg of this corpse pushing the gas pedal out of the range that anybody can see, that's funnier. But the movie kind of plays it like both ways, where like you're saying, it's sometimes people react as if there's a torso whose intestines are playing the drums. They act as if, because at the end of the day, the album gets recorded. Who played all those instruments?
And it becomes like a big deal, like the greatest album ever released.
It's like Bill and Ted. Yeah, it ends in a Bill and Ted fashion, although he's in prison for being a murderer. Yeah. But it's like, now wait a minute. Who played all these instruments? Did he play all the instruments himself?
Didn't they make a comment? I'm trying to remember if the police made a comment about there were no bodies found kind of thing. Or was I'm trying to think of
they didn't find Pigman because the pigs ate his body.
That's right. But
I don't know about the rest of the bodies.
But you can look at this whole movie, basically, honestly, you look at this whole movie as it is a prog rock movie. You know how a prog rock album, concept album, they're all over the place. You're trying to tell a story going up and down, up and down. Like this movie kind of does almost that same thing. Where it's like, you think it's telling the story and like, nope, we're going to go here. Oh, you think it's something else? Oh, nope, we're going to come down here now. Yeah. It's very up and down, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's very true. And maybe that's what they're trying to capture is like the movie itself is kind of a really strange prog rock album, I guess, that doesn't really make sense. And just, like a prog rock, it just completely changes genres and tones and instruments.
Yes.
Maybe.
And it will do that a lot. It goes from you're a straight up comedy to now we're like a gory Evil Dead movie. Now we're going to go to like this relationship movie over to
Bill and
buddy
Ted
comedy.
It becomes Bill and Ted. Yeah, it becomes like Bogus Journey at a certain point.
Yeah,
and those are the parts that played the best for me. Like I would rather the movie had been, I don't want to say more straightforward because there's nothing straightforward about a guy accidentally murdering a 5-piece prog rock band.
What?
But I would have enjoyed it if he was accidentally responsible for the deaths of all these people, and their ghosts helped him make the ultimate prog rock album. That I would have enjoyed that more. I would have enjoyed it more that and then we get that
they did.
did, yes.
But then Vlad turns on him at the end, basically like he was playing with him, and then he turns into this giant monster thing.
I called the cops, Willie. But then he's his friend again after he confronts the Tenacious D devil.
Yes,
Vlad Mechazoid or whatever. Yeah.
Whatever that was.
Whatever the fuck that was.
The one thing I loved that this was pretty much practical work all the way through.
Yes,
the skeleton, the fried skeleton was a animatronic, and you had the makeup effects and everything else. I love this resurgence the last however many years of practical work. It's been great because that's what we grew up in. That's the 80s, the 90s, and I wanted more. I wanted more of his landlord lady because I found her very funny. Yeah. And
that's what I meant by both before she dies and then after she electrocutes herself.
Yeah.
I thought that was all her character was all very heartfelt. And then even when he has to identify her body and he's this is all my fault because, right? If I hadn't just been so impatient, I would have done this and you wouldn't have tried to do it yourself with a screwdriver and electrocuted yourself, and then her corpse reanimates or her fried skeleton reanimates is no, it's my fault. And you have to finish this album.
Yeah.
You've got to finish this album. You can't be in whatever.
And each person that he's killed, you find out the homeless guy that he runs over with the van is the YouTube person that he used to watch
years later.
And she was into all this prog rock and different things of
seemingly she was a prog rock groupie.
Yeah.
Right?
I should have listened to you. And the Philip, the pig guy, I don't know if he was he. I'm not sure if he was really anything. But there
I
were
don't know that
things.
his story related to anything other than he played the bassoon.
Yeah.
Right? And they're okay.
And he had a
he's
pig.
I will figure that part out later, yeah.
We'll just throw him in and see what happens.
Yeah.
But my favorite part with the landlady was when he goes over and she's like, it's movie night, and there's some guy over there with her.
Yes.
And he tells her, you better hurry up. Sophie's about to make her choice.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, that's good. I want more of you.
I think what makes this one so hard is it was such an inconsistent, because it's so dramatically changing, to your point, like a prog rock album.
Yeah.
What it is almost from minute to minute. It's some of that's going to work better for you than others, right? So there are parts of it okay, now that we're on this wavelength, I find these jokes funny or this part interesting or that character moment compelling or heartfelt or whatever. And then that's silly and that's sick and weird and gory and twisted and makes me uncomfortable. And that's not funny. And then, so it's because it's all over the place, my enjoyment was all over the place, which makes it so hard to really dial in to what do I think about it? I don't fucking know. I really liked parts of it. Other parts of it were okay. Other parts of it I didn't like. And I just wanted more clarity. I wanted them to maximize the comedic nature of what was happening with giving us a better sense of the boundaries of what is from his perspective and what is in the reality of the movie. I totally understand that none of this is in reality. Not any of it. I get that part, our reality, but what is the reality that everybody else is experiencing?
Yeah, they set it up to where you don't know. When he's in the studio and you see the manager and the other talent guy, I forgot his name now.
Chris Bang Johnson?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
When you see them in the studio, that would be the perfect opportunity for him to
well, they're interacting with the corpses.
I know. So then you're wait a second, maybe this is something else. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Now let's get so when Augie is saying to him as the harbinger, and he's like, time doesn't exist.
Yes.
It's a repeating flat circle and all this sort of stuff. None of that actually comes into play. This movie has nothing to do with time. whatsoever.
Prog rock is, I mean, their timestamps are all over the place, so there is no consistent time that's in a circle.
Oh, I guess you're right. I mean, is that the point?
Maybe. I don't know. I would
He's
really like to know.
Time is a loop. You've already lived this before. I thought, okay, is that going to factor in, right? Of like, this is going to get increasingly insane, or at some point where we think he's delusional, but he really isn't. And the twist of the movie is these corpses are really reanimated for whatever reason. And like, did he expand his consciousness because of prog rock? Did his music open another dimension or something? Like, I thought there was going to be kind of,
but yeah, they don't push you to think that, like, as he's figuring out this album that he's been working on forever, it is more and more opening up for him as he's progressing through his art. That he hasn't been able to
so
make.
He's not crazy. He's just like at higher frequencies or whatever.
Yes.
And he appears to be crazy to the rest of us, but he's actually right.
I like that. I like that idea.
But they didn't do it. I'm not sure it's what this is.
They didn't take it probably as far as they could have if that was part of the intent. Like leading up to the big finale. Even the big finale wasn't like a huge. I was expecting.
There's like a portal to hell that opens up, and then he's got this wizard's cloak that comes on.
Yeah, I was expecting this big like playoff kind of thing.
And I gotta close this portal. I open this portal to like this hell world, and Vlad came from this other world that I opened up with my music, and he whatever. But no, there's no explanation. In the end, even though Vlad has betrayed him for the umpteenth time, the ghost of Vlad is like, "Oh, Willie, my buddy, yeah." I'm like, I don't understand.
and then we come back to reality, and he's in jail. He goes to jail for what he did. But his album is the biggest album ever made. It's a masterpiece. Everybody's like talking about how much of a masterpiece
there's
it
another, there's another great example, right? Okay. If you take me on this whole crazy fucking ride.
Yes.
The movie just as it is. And then if you snap focus to, and in the real world, this guy went to prison for manslaughter, for all involuntary manslaughter of all these people, right?
Yeah. For his band that he made.
Yeah. I understand, like, you don't actually want to deal with it because that then makes the whole thing not funny, because then it's just like, this guy's done some really sick shit.
Yeah.
Like, I get that you have to do, like, tonally, you have to be kind of fast and loose with it. But then, like, when he's watching the Grammys, the knockoff Grammys, and he's winning all of these awards, like album of the century and all this sort of stuff, that also feels delusional. And Thomas Lennon and Chris Bang Johnson are up there. But then when his girlfriend appears, I
kept waiting for it to cut out of it, of like he was just in a jail cell imagining the whole thing. Whole time.
He actually seemingly has produced this album. And his girlfriend's like, how go figure? Like, you ended up producing like the most top selling album of all time. How does it feel? And he's like, I don't know. I'm in prison. Like, it feels good, but I'm glad I finally got it done. It's like, so strange, like,
and then she left him a gift, and he gets his little synthesizer, little thingy, and so he can toy around for the next one, the next big album,
because everybody wants to know what he's going to do next, even though he's in prison. And it's like, at some point, we needed to snap to reality, right? And be like, oh, this guy is insane and is a killer, or, as bizarre as what we've seen is, it's all actually true.
It all really happened.
It all really happened as he saw it. He wasn't crazy, and that almost would have been funnier if everybody thinks this guy's crazy and we think he's crazy the whole time. We think the movie's just being weird for weird's sake, but in the end, all of this stuff is actually just all true.
I don't think it is. Like, the more I think of it, I think this was supposed to be a prog rock album in movie form, to where everyone kind of interprets it their own way as you're watching it. Whether it's reality, not reality, what's going on, it's your interpretation as you're watching it, leading it to the end.
Having known nothing about this.
I knew zero about this movie going in.
Me too. I thought, I knew Alex Winter was in it. I knew he played a character named Vlad. And I knew he was like the creepy neighbor that moved next door to this guy. And that's pretty much what I knew. I didn't even know the prog rock angle of it.
That part I didn't know either. I knew like the makeup and yeah.
And to go Alex Winter, so it's going to be like, there's going to be comedy in it. You're right. Like weirdo comedy, probably. So I knew that much. Or did you at all think this maybe was like going to be a vampire movie? Like, or he was some kind of literally a monster. And then like he was like turning the neighbors in the building. And then everybody thinks this guy's going crazy because he's like, that guy's a monster. That guy living next door is like, not just an asshole, but he's a monster. And then he's like going to turn the pig guy, he's going to turn the landlady, and they're all going to turn into like weird creatures or whatever. And he's going to have to kill all of his neighbors.
There for a minute. Yes, because I mean, it's called Destroy All Neighbors.
Yeah.
Like he was going to have to, almost Evil Dead it and fight them all.
Yeah. That's
one by
thought.
one.
Yeah.
I knew zero that it was going to have this prog rock angle to it or any of that. So
and when the poster pulled up, and it's like got that look to it, I thought, okay, maybe this is going to be like Brain Dead or something like that, where he's like everybody, not zombies or even necessarily vampires, but maybe they all become like weird, grotesque, like tentacle monsters or just monsters, and then he's gonna have to destroy all neighbors. And it's going to look like he's the killer, like he's the monster, he's crazy. But actually, this Vlad has like infected this building or whatever. Yeah. That's what I thought it was going to be. And so then when it went on this crazy prog rock story, and then him and Vlad's head ended up making a band with the homeless guy he runs over, who turns out to be his idol. I was like, what the hell is this?
Well, then you have Vlad in multiple pieces. At one point, does he stitch him when he throws his head at him? He's got his arms out. Did he like stitch them together to?
Well, that's the like basket case shit, right?
Yeah.
But how did he come together as with the arms and shit? Like Belial, like how did he come together like that? Because you're right. Did he temporarily sew him? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
I think I think I'm sensing a theme. Anytime I bring you on, it's going to have to be a movie that
makes no fucking sense.
That it's not a straight line. It's just like up and down and around and
I think you're probably right. But like, when he's in bed and is he hallucinating or is he going to like an alternate dimension?
I don't know.
It's all funky and weird and like a tunnel, and he's like moving around, and then Vlad's head appears as the ceiling fan, and he pulls the cord out of his mouth, and all those guts and vomit pours out on top of him, and he's
in the moment. He's starting to, I don't want to say see the music, but the music is taking over, and it's going to come out.
Okay, I'm not saying your theory is wrong. I like your theory, and it's the closest to making sense of this movie that I could make of it as it is. Would it have been better if there was more than one prog rock song? Like, we never hear the rest of his album, right?
No,
like,
we don't.
If the plot had been, I've written, because prog rock has like 27 tracks, 30 tracks. I've written
the albums are usually
tracks.
like 3 hours long.
Right. Yeah. I've written 29 tracks. My 30th track, my magnum opus, the finale, I can't finish, right? Like, I just can't finish this last song, because that's essentially the idea, is you can't finish the last song. And so if as the movie's going from like weirdo thing to weirdo thing, if we were hearing the other songs
as he went along,
because instead the rest of the movie is not prog rock, it's synth. It's just generic,
very much
stuff.
80s throwback
synthwave,
yeah. And
so I'm like, like if you're gonna be prog rock, be fucking prog rock all the way through, right?
Just go all in,
and like that trippy music. That's like you're saying, it's just all over the fucking place, because that's the tone of the movie. You're right, definitely right about that. Like, I think that would have worked better, right? And then it would have almost paired in a way where it feels like maybe we're just in this guy's album. You know what I mean? Like, maybe
yeah.
Or he's in his own album or whatever. I don't know.
If you would have had the songs with the people, and then when the giant monster thing comes out, that's like the big hit moment, final piece of it, and you just get this big jam.
And he has to play the perfect jam, the perfect prog rock
like,
song.
Pick of Destiny, where they got to like fight the devil with the perfect song.
Yeah, and maybe they didn't do that because it would be too close to Pick of Destiny.
Maybe.
But we still kind of get there anyway, so I don't know.
We do.
Man. It just
it definitely, that ending probably gave me the heaviest feel of Tenacious D than anything else leading up to that.
there is any form of reality in the movie we watch, Brad, would his girlfriend have anything to do with him?
I don't know, because she did kind of hate him and then was fed up with him because he would never thought of her. You're just something simple of like, you can't pick up printer paper. But then in the end, she comes back to help him so she could tell this super long story to keep the police occupied and everybody else so he can finish what he was doing. So I don't know. Like, I feel like she would have left him long ago, but
because she saw him over the corpse of one of their neighbors whom he had repeatedly stabbed over and over and over again.
But yet she still hung around. She's there at the end when he's in prison.
Right.
Or is she?
That's what I'm saying.
Did we really watch this movie? Or is it all a figment of our imagination? I don't know.
Are we just making this movie up as we talk about it? Because that's what it sounds like, and that's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like, yeah, you're right. Fuck. Did you, what? Did you give me LSD?
I did.
What was in that Hartzler's eggnog you gave me, Brad? Jesus Christ.
Oh, I love it. I know you can't really figure this out. What would you give this movie out of 5?
Fuck me.
I think I'd go a solid 3.5, honestly, for me. Just because I really did enjoy it.
A 2.5 feels so low, especially because there were parts I really did enjoy. I really thoroughly enjoyed, especially after the beginning, Alex Winter's performance.
Yes. And I really enjoyed like this, I guess not really, it almost felt road trippy where he's going through like picking up his band members. Basically, everybody's getting killed off and, I got a new band member now. Like, I did enjoy that
part. I like the camaraderie between him and the corpses.
Yes.
Corpse camaraderie. I thought it was really charming and I thought the lead was good. I thought I liked the property manager, especially after she was charred and was a corpse. So there was so much about the movie that I liked. There was just so much about the movie that did nothing for me or just left me feeling like they were maybe just trying a little too hard to be weird. It felt like it was, so I would say probably like a 3-star, maybe.
I mean, that's still pretty solid.
Yeah. It's not bad. There's nothing in it that I would say that is bad. It looks better than 99% of these the movies of this tier. For the most part.
Would agree. Like there's been a couple that have come out, like over on Screenbox we had Onyx the Fortuitous, kind of had that same quirky silliness feel to it that kind of this had. Yeah. But you could go along with a linear story more with that one. But
right.
Yeah. All right. Well, see, you didn't hate it as much as I was thinking. As I was watching this, I was like, okay, he's either going to hate this whole thing, his whole experience, or even just like the movie, I'm like, I don't know where this is going to go. What are we going to end up with?
I'm with you though. I'm not sure we actually watched it. I'm not sure this is real.
I'm just going to, I'm going to tell people, I'm like, do you like prog rock? Yeah, this is prog rock in movie form. And see,
yeah,
I'll lead them in like that and see what they think.
Yeah, there you go.
Anything else you want to say about Destroy All Neighbors?
No.
All right, before we go, there's something new I've been doing with the my guests is there something at home you would suggest people to go check out?
Yes. I'm going to do a review of it coming up on Binge Movies from the action section, which is kind of a misnomer. It is an action movie, but it's more of a drama. It's an underseen movie directed by the guy who directed Prince of Thieves, among other things. It stars a litany of people who you would think would not be capable of making a good movie. Jason Patric and Steve Baldwin and a few other people. It came out in 1988. It was a huge flop. It's called The Beast, or otherwise known as The Beast of War.
I don't know this one.
It is about the Russian, or so I should say Soviet Afghani war, and it takes place in 1981, I believe. It's about a Russian tank troop battalion, Soviet tank battalion, who are basically committing war crimes in the hinterlands of Afghanistan, and they get turned around in this valley trying to get to like the major road that runs to the Middle East. It's about their experience, about their personalities and like them, but it's also about the differing clans of Afghani folks who are the survivors of their atrocities who come together and are trying to take this tank out. You spend a lot of time with both groups. It humanizes both groups. It shows the good and the bad of both groups. It is a surprisingly effective war film. It is vastly underseen. It does have some good action. It looks like $1 million, even in standard definition. It looks incredible. You can rent it. It's on Tubi. I'm sorry, Brad.
I'm out.
But it is on Amazon, and you can rent it for, I don't know, like $2. And it's really good. It's really good.
I'm going to add it to my list because I've never heard of it. Never heard of it at all.
Either had I until one of our patrons recommended it, and I'm doing it for them for a review from the action section. So if you want to hear more of my thoughts about it, check that out. It should be out next week.
And where can we find Binge Movies? That way they know where to go.
Binge Movies is available at all of the finest podcast apps that you listen to podcasts on. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/binge movies. If you want reviews from the Video Nasties, if you want reviews written and audio, depends on what I have the most time for, from the action section, if you want reviews from the horror section, if you like to watch or think about or miss the days of the dusty aisles of the local video store, we are resurrecting it one aisle at a time over at patreon.com/binge movies.
I miss the video store's days. There are just nights where I'm just like, I wish I could go to the video store and just walk and see what's out, what's there. That's what I do on Tubi now, but
yeah, Tubi's, as far as streaming goes, Tubi's the closest equivalent we have to a video store.
Well, Jason, I want to thank you again for coming on Old Man Brad. And I love that 2 movies in a row, you come in and you don't know. You're just like, where
you befuddled me.
It's all over the place.
Can you, the next time I come on, can we talk about a movie that has a plot?
I'll think about it. We'll see.
Just a plot, doesn't even have to be complicated. Just one plot.
Well, we'll see what I can come up with. Well, that will do it for another chapter of Old Man Brad. If you enjoy what you heard, subscribe to the show so you never miss any episodes of Tales from Tubi or any of these, fun episodes I do with guests. And I'll be back soon with a brand new episode. Later this week, I talked to Jamie Nash, the director of Last Night at Terrace Lanes. So you want to check that one out. But just snuggle up in that blanket, turn off the lights, because it's okay to be scared. We'll talk to you later, everybody.